Everything You Know About Jesus Is Wrong by Jeff Duvall. Visit the companion website for the free audiobook, resources, author contacts, speaking requests, and more at everythingyouknowaboutjesusiswrong.com. Grand Canyons. Peter O'Toole as T.E. Lawrence in Lawrence of Arabia. Big things have small beginnings. Lao Tzu, Chinese philosopher. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. From the Gospel, according to John chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. There was a wedding in the small village of Cana, and Jesus, his disciples, and his mother Mary were all there as invited guests. During the festivities, the host ran out of wine. Mary went to Jesus and told him, "They're out of wine." Knowing what she wanted him to do, he told her, "I love you, Mom, but that's not our problem. It's too early for me to do what you want me to do." She didn't respond. She just told the servers, "Do whatever he tells you to do." Flying used to seem fun. Sometimes it still is, especially when I have enough points to score a bargain basement first-class seat. It's magical, like Narnia, but with warm nuts and legroom. Not today. I'm on a run-of-the-mill flight from Kansas City to LAX, the airport equivalent of purgatory. If Dante had flown Spirit Airlines Terminal 4 would have been his 10th circle of hell. I fly often and I have a system. I sit near the back where the seats recline a precious inch and hope no one joins me. Today, I faked a coughing fit to ward off the middle-aged couple eyeing the seats beside me. It did not work. "Are these seats taken?" I said, coughing, clinging to my personal space. Now I'm wedged into a window seat like a human panini. The guy in front of me keeps jolting my laptop. The woman behind me is airsick and caring for a baby that isn't hers. The couple next to me has downed 4 beers each, which they haven't been charged for some reason. Either they're charming or the flight attendant abandoned capitalism after her poli-sci degree at ASU. Still, the woman in the middle seat is respectful to space, which is rare. She's from Tennessee heading to New Zealand with her new husband. Outside, the view is mostly farmland and cows pondering their existence, until something catches my eye. Somewhere over the middle of nowhere, I see it, the distinct beginning of the Grand Canyon. A small start. It's obvious the Grand Canyon starts somewhere, but I didn't really know where. I've been to the Grand Canyon a few times, and I've studied satellite photos of it. I'm a nerd that way. But never thought about where it starts. You can't see all the Grand Canyon from one place. It's too grand. A mile deep in some places, a mile wide in others. It's an amazing sight to behold. The awesome power of water and the creativity of a God who crafted this third planet from the sun. Still, I've never even heard someone mention the small beginnings of the massive gorge. There is a name for the place where the Grand Canyon starts. It's called Lee's Ferry. In 1857, John D. Lee retreated there to escape for his part in the Mountain Meadows Massacre, which saw 120 people murdered in Mormon religious fervor. In this spot where Glen Canyon ends and the Grand Canyon begins for a few hundred yards, the Colorado River has a shore on both sides. It's the only such place for hundreds of miles. Lee established a ferry there and was later arrested and executed. Didn't know where the Grand Canyon begins? Well, now you do. Some 2,000 years and billions of followers later, it's easy to forget that Jesus wasn't always the famous history-splitting miracle worker either. Sure, he was the long-awaited Messiah, but no one knew it. Even his parents had mixed feelings. When Jesus disappeared and was found in the temple teaching the rabbis a thing or two, his parents responded like any other parents would. They were worried and confused, not about the all-powerful creator of the universe, but about their boy. When Jesus reminded them of who he was, they were speechless. The angels who had appeared at the birth of their son were a distant memory, more than a decade removed, and Mary did something that mothers do. She tucked it all away in her heart. Unable to wrap her brain around how different this maternal experience was going to be from her sisters and cousins, she decided to think about it. Those thoughts went into an emotional vault all moms seem to have, locked away somewhere waiting for further action at a later time. It would be years before we see her considering the ramifications of being a mom of the Messiah again. At a wedding for an unnamed couple in Cana, a small village near Nazareth, the crisis arose. The crisis had her finally testing the idea that her son, long observed to be atypical by now, was more than merely different. An ordinary wedding requires the supernatural. Jesus and his disciples were invited guests to a wedding, and Jesus' mother was there too. We don't know who was getting married, but it must have been a big deal. Of course, weddings usually are. Weddings might be the most momentous of all human rituals. Two people decide to become each other's lifelong exclusive romantic interests, sexual partners, family co-creators, financial partners, travel buddies, social collaborators, friends, emergency managers, career coaches, healthcare providers, roommates, and more. It's really something how people make this kind of decision so young and how so many make marriages last a lifetime. If you've studied the Bible much, you already know that Jewish weddings were longer than what you're used to, maybe even lasting multiple days. At some point, for some reason, the host of the wedding at Cana ran out of wine. Today, that might not be a big deal, but in Jesus' culture, hospitality was a huge part of one's social standing. Lots of cultures are like this now. I have sat in a mud and manure hut with a teenage Maasai boy in Kenya who beamed with pride over serving me tea. I've had the most incredible food served by Oaxacan people who live in shacks constructed of pallets and plastic. Having and serving guests is at the heart of many cultures, and it was clearly crucial to social capital in Jesus' time. Enter Jesus' mom. Like so many awesome moms, she is a problem solver. No one told her what to do, but then those memories pondered in her heart for so long hit her. Her son has divine power. She remembered and decided to act on that belief. So she went to Jesus and told him, they are out of wine. Knowing what she wanted him to do, he told her, I love you, Mom, but that's not our problem. It's too early for me to do what you want me to do. But she didn't even respond. She just told the servers, do whatever he tells you to do. There were 6 large ritual cleansing jars made of stone that were there for ceremonial washing. Each one could hold 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told the servants to fill them with water, and they did. He told them, take some out and bring it to the master of ceremonies. And they did. When the MC tasted the water that had been transformed into wine, he wondered where it came from. The servers knew what happened, but they didn't say. He called the groom over to compliment him, a bit puzzled. A host always serves the best wine first when people are still completely sober. After they've been drinking a while, he brings out the cheap stuff when no one cares. But you've saved the best for last. This was the first time Jesus revealed what he could really do, and his disciples believed him. His mom didn't ask him to help. She just told him they're out of wine and probably gave him that mom look. When Jesus told her that he shouldn't do what she was asking him to do, Mary didn't argue. She had already made it clear what she expected him to do. He had made his plea and it had fallen on deaf ears. She simply looked at the servers and told them, do whatever he tells you. I like to imagine her giving them that this might get weird, but do it anyway look. Jesus, the Savior of humanity, the second member of the triune Godhead, obeyed his mother. He was 30 years old. He already had 12 men who left everything to follow him and would someday have over 5 billion followers throughout history. He told his mother that he did not want to make miraculous wine. She didn't listen, so he made wine. Then and there, something began. Jesus would perform around 40 recorded miracles and presumably many more that are unrecorded. He would feed tens of thousands of people from a couple of sack lunches. He would heal terminal diseases, correct lifelong disabilities, and bring back people from the dead. He would himself come back to life after 3 days in the grave to conquer death for all of humanity. But it all started here with a small display of what he was capable of. There were so many reasons not to do this miracle. Jesus was not a winemaker. The timing was wrong. The people had already had a lot to drink. There were also reasons to perform the miracle. Among them seemed to be that his mom had asked him to. However, from there, a small spark of faith ignited a small fire. John, who is retelling the story to us, threw in his small statement that is easily missed, and the disciples believed him. This matters, particularly because of what came next. The next thing Jesus did was crazy. He went into the temple of Jerusalem having made his own whip from rope. He acted like a madman and drove out the sheep and the cattle from the temple court. He threw the money from the exchange merchants all over the floor and then flipped their tables over. It's hard to say if the disciples, after seeing this crazy display, would have stuck with Jesus to see the incredible things they would come to experience if they hadn't first seen the miracle at Cana. They may have said, okay, this guy's a pretty good teacher, but he's nuts. You couldn't blame them. He goes on to tell Nicodemus that he must somehow be birthed a second time. He usurps John the Baptist's ministry. He meets alone with the Samaritan woman with flexible sexual morals. All of this happens over a period of months before he performs his next miracle. Had he not lost an argument with his mother, Jesus' disciples may have fled. Who could blame them? Something had started. It had been small, but it had begun. Like the Grand Canyon, it started slight. It was still a little flat spot in the river, but it would grow into a wonder. Incomparable significance. There's little question for believers and unbelievers alike that Jesus' life and teachings are the most influential in history. From that small beginning and the movement that began there at a wedding, a global history-shaping movement began. What Jesus did, the significance of what he did, cannot adequately be put into words, although many have tried. Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of France, said, "I know men, and I tell you that Jesus Christ is no near men. Between him and every other person in the world, there is no possible term of comparison. Alexander, Caesar, Charlemagne, and I have founded empires. But what did we rest the creation of our genius upon? Force? Jesus founded his empire upon love, and at this hour, millions of men would die for him." Albert Einstein, scientist. As a child, I received instruction in both the Bible and the Talmud. I am a Jew, but I am enthralled by the luminous figure of the Nazarene. No one can read the Gospels without feeling the actual presence of Jesus. His personality pulsates every word. No myth is filled with such life. Mahatma Gandhi, nonviolent colonial resistance activist. A man who was completely innocent offered himself as a sacrifice for the good of others, including his enemies, and became the ransom of the world. It was a perfect act. Kenneth Latourette, former president of the American Historic Society. As the centuries pass by, the evidence is accumulating that measured by its effect on history, Jesus is the most influential life that ever lived on this planet. The influence appears to be mounting. No other life lived on this planet has so widely and deeply affected mankind. Daniel Webster, politician. All that is best in civilization of today is the fruit of Christ's appearance among men. C.S. Lewis, author. You can shut him up for a fool. You can spit at him and kill him as a demon. You can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about him being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. Ernest Renan, historian, religious scholar, and linguist. All history is incomprehensible without Christ. Although there are some earlier writings of historical value, the narrative of history begins about 2000 BC. That is, people began purposely recording what was happening for future generations about 4,000 years ago. Therefore, history is, in a quite literal sense, split down the middle with Jesus as the great divide. The divine irony is that his birth, life, death, and resurrection don't split the time before and after him. He joins the BC and the AD. What's more, he bridged the chasm between God and humans that our humanists had created. Big things start small. The same Jesus who turned the water into wine turned death into life and fear into hope and poor into blessed, and he turned Friday's grief into Sunday's elation. And it all started with a mother and her son at a wedding in a little village called Cana, where Jesus reluctantly obeyed his mom's request.